Hello and welcome back. While eating cinnamon and butterscotch pie today, I found myself thinking of Toriel. She's arguably the sweetest and most caring character in all of Undertale, being someone who purely has your well-being in mind. When Toby Fox designed her, he did so with the fact that there aren't many motherly characters in video games in mind. She isn't particularly secretive, with one exception: what lies in wait behind the inaccessible door within her home. Now I know you're probably already screaming at the screen saying it's undoubtedly Asgore's former bedroom. While I'm inclined to agree with you, there's additional factors worth considering. So let's take a look and see if we can figure out the mystery of what's behind Toriel's locked door. Of course, the animation, if Undertale was realistic, has already answered this question for me. Inside the room is Steve, Toriel's giant snail boyfriend. Okay, well, maybe not. As we don't really know for sure though, I guess there's no ruling it out as a non-possibility. I'll put a link to the full animation in the description, though I imagine you've already seen it. Toriel's home is the first sign of sanctuary after we battle through the ruins, or alternatively talk everyone out of killing us. It's where the song Home plays, which is about as indie as an indie game soundtrack gets. Everything within Toriel's home should make immediate sense to the player. Toriel has a room for you, herself, a living room and a kitchen. So what exactly is the room that's apparently under renovations? On your first time playing, you'll have absolutely no idea. I figured maybe Toby just hadn't bothered to make an additional room, which could be true I guess, but let's give him the benefit of a doubt and say there's actually a very good reason for it. Let's skip ahead all the way to near the end of the game, where we explore Asgore's home within the capital of the Underground. Surprisingly, we find it's almost exactly the same as Toriel's home. Well, there's a reason for that. Consider that they used to live together, and that the ruins is a place the monsters once called home. Literally, that was its name. New Home, where Asgore now resides, has clearly been updated to have a slightly more modern look, with white and grey rather than purple and violet. Or maybe Toby was just saving time again by using a palette swap rather than making new art. Though all credit to him, whatever the intention was, it does actually work. While traversing the corridor we come across another room that's under renovations. And would you look at that? It's in exactly the same place as Toriel's room within her home, which brings us to a pretty obvious conclusion. The rooms behind the under renovation signs are Asgore and Toriel's former rooms respectively. Well, that was easy to solve, but hold on, just why exactly were the two of them in separate rooms to begin with? Could there be something more to this? What if we could go in there and find something a little bit like this? Okay, I'll admit that's a little unlikely considering Toriel's character. Remember though, we're not ruling out any possibilities. Joking aside, I think it's very interesting to consider what it means were the two of them sleeping apart long before they even properly split up. Maybe there doesn't exist a bed big enough for two dreamers, though surely they could just get one custom made. I feel it's also interesting to note how the two houses are essentially parallels of each other. While in the room reserved for you within Toriel's home, we find all sorts of paraphernalia meant for a child. We get something similar in Asgore's home, though for two children instead, namely Chara and Asriel. While making this video I noticed something particularly upsetting. In Toriel's home we find a drawer full of unused plant seeds. Meanwhile in Asgore's home there's a scrunched up recipe for pie. On a material level it's clear the two miss each other. Asgore wants to taste Toriel's butterscotch and cinnamon pies again, which is also evident if you eat her pie during his fight, and Toriel clearly tried to take up gardening to restore some semblance of normality. So, while it's impossible to say what's actually behind the door, it's very heavily implied to be where her former husband once slept. It's an incredibly depressing thought to think how close the two of them must have once been, only to be torn apart by a catastrophe that was beyond the scope of either of them. I covered the topic in more detail in my Defense of King Asgore video, so feel free to check that out for some more facts. I mean, I guess it could just be the bathroom. Come to think of it, we don't see Toriel and Asgore's bathrooms, and knowing Toby, yeah, that's just as likely. Sorry for the rather short episode. I didn't want to ramble on with senseless speculation though. It could be Toriel's secret torture chamber, or where she keeps a zoo of exotic snails. But that would all be pure guesswork. The most likely conclusion is that it is indeed Asgore's former room, which gives it a great deal of significance within the game's story. Likewise, Asgore put an under renovation sign on Toriel's former room. It shows how much the two of them think alike, even though they're at odds with each other for the entirety of Undertale. I think secretly a lot of us hope they reconcile after the events of the game. Unless you're into skeletons. See you next time.